Good evening, everybody. Our December 12, 2022 meeting is now called to order. I want to encourage everybody, take a moment to silence your cell phones during this meeting. The City Council encourages public participation. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. However, this time limit may be reduced if there are numerous speakers on a particular item. To ensure efficient proceedings, all persons addressing the City Council shall state their name and shall speak in a civil and courteous manner. Speakers shall address the agenda topic only to which they are speaking on and shall not be repetitive. Members of the audience, please respect the rights of others and do not create noise or other disturbances so as to disrupt or disturb persons who are addressing the City Council, council members who are speaking, or otherwise impede the orderly conduct of the meeting. We'll have invocation, yours truly, then Pledge of Allegiance by Councilman Harrington. Stand for prayer. Gracious God, our Father, we come today thanking you for life. We thank you for the opportunity and ability to live in this country. We thank you for a city that's vibrant and filled with so many great and concerned people. Lord God, my prayer is that we would come together, even among different opinions, but we would find a common ground in order to better our city, a city that we love so much, a city that has so much value, a city that has history, but also presently is filled with precious people. So God, allow us to conduct this meeting in a way that makes you proud, allow us to be respectful and orderly. Remember the words of the Apostle Paul, that we must always conduct ourselves decently and in order. I ask these blessings in your Son Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Councilman Harrington.
Please follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All righty. Next item on the agenda is the reading and approval of the minutes from our meeting on November 28, 2022.
Mayor, I make a motion that we dispense with the reading of the minutes and that the minutes of November 28, 2022 be adopted.
I second.
All right, motion has been made and seconded to dispense with the reading of the minutes, but to adopt the minutes as they have been recorded. Comments or questions, council, about this motion? Are there any public comments about this motion? Okay, seeing none, Mrs. Stacy, roll call vote.
Eli,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Harrington,
Yes.
PT,
Yes.
All right, that motion carries. Next item on the agenda is ordinance number 79 of 2022. That's read by Councilwoman Washington Eli.
Thank you, Mayor. This ordinance is for final, and I will just read title only. Ordinance number 079 of 2022, an ordinance approving the transfer of an airport hangar, authorizing the mayor of the city of Natchitoches, Ronnie Williams Jr., to execute a lease in favor of the title, I guess, because it's a TIV proposal of the LAC of Lot 39 of the Natchitoches Regional Airport as shown on the airport layout plan October the 1993 and reserved September the 2000 and further approved for advertising of the lease and effective date. And I move to adopt ordinance number 079 of 2022.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Ed, I think comment, did you make comment last time on this?
I did, but if you want me to add more, I can. It's just simply a ground lease that the hangar sits on. The city does not own the hangar.
Okay. Okay. All right, questions, comments, council? Any public comments or questions about this piece? All right, seeing none, Mrs. Stacy, roll call vote.
Eli,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Harrington,
Yes.
PT,
Yes.
All right, that motion carries. Next item on the agenda is ordinance number 81 of 2022. Councilman Harrington.
Ordinance number 81 of 2022, I'll read by title only as those previously introduced. It's an ordinance to designate funds from the American Rescue Plan to purchase a vehicle for the city of Natchitoches to further the promotion of public health and welfare and to otherwise provide respect thereto. I move to adopt ordinance 81 of 2022.
I second.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. I know Donald has spoken on this. This is similar to the piece that he's going to be, the city's going to be purchasing. Is there any other comment, Donald?
Well, Mayor and the councilor, we need this piece of equipment because our previous equipment, the mini excavator that we had, is down at this time, and we don't have any equipment that we could go in those small street locations to dig out the ditches and clean catch basins out. So that's going to help us. Right now, we have a lot of leaves dropping in the neighborhood in the ditches and limbs and debris, and we use that piece of equipment to remove these things and haul them off. And that's going to help us.
Okay. Any comments or questions, council, for Donald? I think he explained it this time and last time as well. Any public comments or questions about this piece? Yes, Mr. Sires. And just to reiterate, state your first and last name, got a maximum of 3 minutes, all right?
Probably only take about a minute and a half. Good afternoon. Assalamu alaikum to brothers and sisters of this council meeting. Good evening, Ms. Precious. All right, what's on your mind? The city of Natchitoches.
Will you state your first and last name, sir?
My name?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I thought y'all know me. Carl C.S.
Okay.
All right. I would like for the city to look at the overall, not on the vehicle part, the main power that Mr. Forrest have to work with. They do a lot of work around the city and everything else, and lacking of old equipment need to be replaced with new, modern-day up to equipment. And I know he get a great backlash on a lot of work that not being done around the city and everything, but when you don't have the equipment to do work with, it's nothing you can do. And these guys who working, they out here working daily. I see them and everything else. So if any way, whatever the city need to improve the city, why not we go ahead and take care of this and get this done? See, they ain't take 3 minutes.
That's right. Minute and 8 seconds. Thank you, Mr. Sires.
Amen.
All right, any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, Mrs. Stacy, roll call vote.
Eli,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Yes.
Harrington, PT,
Yes.
All right, that motion carries as well. The next few items are for introduction, all right? And we've got, who's reading this one, Ms. Stacy, I'm sorry.
PT.
PT, Councilman PT is going to read ordinance number 82 of 2022.
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance 082 of 2022, an ordinance to amend and reenact Section 8.1 of Chapter 8 of the Code of Ordinances entitled Building and Building Regulations. Said amendment being made to adopt the 2021 International Property Maintenance Code as the official building maintenance code of the city of Natchitoches, Louisiana, providing for advertising, providing for severability, and further providing for a repealer and effective date of ordinance. And this is for introduction.
Okay, Ms. Rock, is there any comment you'd like to make at this introductory period for this particular item?
Yeah, so what I wanted to explain was, Chapter 8 is the ordinance that we have that sets for building and building regulations. We adopted that code for the purpose of establishing rules and regulations for construction, alteration, removal, demolitions, equipment, use, and occupancy. And it also set the code for our CBO, for our certified building official or inspector position. However, what we're moving to do now is to adopt the 2021 maintenance code. What this code will allow us to do is create our code enforcement piece, which will allow us to set standards for the maintenance of different properties. It'll give you the basic regulations or the basic procedures for how to maintain a building, to make sure that each structure that someone occupies is actually up to code. So with this particular code, we can actually go in, verify if someone is going to rent a particular property, we can actually go in, verify that the house is up to date, up to code with ventilation, lighting, heating, flooring, and things of that nature.
Okay. Council, got any comments or questions for Ms. Rock?
That's great.
All right, again, this is just introduced, so in the meantime, read it, reread it, and if some questions arise, certainly I think everybody knows how to get in contact with Chantrell. All right? Again, it's just for introduction. Next item on the agenda is ordinance number 83 of 2022. That's Councilwoman at-large Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. This is for introduction, ordinance 083 of 2022 is an ordinance to create the position of Public Safety Commissioner and Human Resource Manager, setting duties and qualifications for same, to amend the Personnel Policies Manual, and to provide for the newly created position of Public Safety Commissioner and Human Resource Manager in the Code of Ordinances of the City of Natchitoches, to adopt Article 7 of Chapter 2 of the Code of Ordinances, specifically the adoption of Sections 2 through 80 through 2-8, and to confirm the appointment of the Public Safety Commissioner by the mayor, providing for advertising, further providing for severability, and further providing for a repeal and effective date of ordinance. And this is for introduction.
All right, typically what we do for introductions, we allow the council to comment, ask questions. We don't typically open it up to the public, but I see two pieces on the agenda tonight that I think we probably need to open it up, but allow a reduced amount of time. Instead of 3 minutes, 2 minutes, for those who wish to speak on this particular item. So, I don't know if there's anybody who would like to speak. Again, this is ordinance number 83. Please state your first and last name. And Steve, do you have a timer over there? Again, let's allow just 2 minutes. Certainly want to allow the council as well to speak.
My name is Robert Jackson. I'm the co-founder and CEO of a nonprofit organization called Bionic, Moving Out of Care. It's for at-risk youth. And I think that electing Mr. J.D. Oliver would be very useful for our city, because our youth is behind a lot of things going on. And our law enforcement seem to be failing in their responsibility to find out why these crimes are not being solved. And me being a person who have been in crime life for a long time, I know there's a problem. And I come home from prison to be a solution for that problem. And I think working with Mr. J.D. Oliver, that we all come together and solve this problem, because we need to find out why there's nothing being done. We're constantly using our youth every day behind crimes, and nobody's being prosecuted for it. So let's elect Mr. Oliver, you know what I'm saying, on behalf of, you know what I'm saying, the commissioner and the human resources, to make our city better. And I thank y'all for your time.
All right, thank you, Mr. Jackson. And I appreciate some of the work you're doing that I'm noticing, Mr. Jackson, in the community. And I will say this, I think we've got many great officers who do a lot of great work in our city. Certainly, I think it's been brought up, you know, that more are needed. And I think that is a point to be made there. I believe, is there another comment? And let me be clear, as Mr. Sias, as you're coming to the podium, so this is to, oh, okay. Well, we'll let, Mrs. Sykes, how about we'll let the ladies come first? I didn't realize they were getting up. I'm sure you don't mind ladies first, do you? All right. Okay. Now, look, so just to be clear, this is to create a new position of, I use the title Director of Public Safety, but I think it's prevailed in the ordinance as Public Safety Commissioner. You know, titles don't really, I'm not so moved by titles. It's about what the position is going to do. But then also, since we're restructuring, or I'm proposing a restructuring, Human Resources Manager is shown to be tied to purchasing. We just basically need to do some cleanup on that as we have separated that out officially. I guess we need to make it official on the chart is what I really mean to say. All right, please state your first and last name.
Teresa Carter. And I'm the mother of Kimanisha Nicole Carter, who got murdered March the 17th of 2022. And I just wanting to know what is being done. I'm not getting informed on anything if I don't go out and reach out to them. They're not telling me anything about what's going on. I had to meet with 2 detectives I seen in the store. Just out the blue, I thought they was detectives, and I asked them, so they gave me another detective name to go see him. And he's telling me, I'm working on it. I'm such and such, I'm this, I'm that. And it's nothing. It's going on 9 months, and nobody's telling me nothing about no one who killed my daughter or giving me anything on what happened, you know. And I just want to know if anybody can step up and do something like that, I'm down for it. I'm down for whatever.
I'm sorry, what's your name, ma'am?
Teresa Carter.
Carter, okay.
I'm Mary Fowler. That's my grandbaby. And like she said, we don't know nothing. She got a little 11-year-old son that we got to look at every night. You got to watch him crying, wondering why his mom at. We can't tell him nothing. Even when he get bigger, who we going to tell him what happened to his mom? Who did this? We just need to know something. That's how we get our peace. We got to know something, and we're not knowing that. And it's killing you inside every night not to see her there no more. We don't know what to do no more. You cry every day and night. That ain't helping. It hurts.
Thank you, ma'am. And I have some remarks, I think, in my statement that I kind of addressed that. Yes, ma'am, will you state your first and last name?
My name is Thomas Carter. I'm the cousin of Kimanisha Nicole Carter. Thomas Carter. I feel as if the city of Natchitoches should offer more support, more help to the families that are in need of help from a loved one that has been lost to a homicide, a murder. I feel as if a family should not always have to go to a detective to see what happens, knows what happens with their loved one. I feel like a detective should always reach out. That's his job, to make the family feel safer, give the family some closure. And if electing J.D. Oliphant would give my family closure, or any family closure in Natchitoches, Louisiana, I would want him to be there. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, ma'am. All right. All right, I think we got some other people. Again, that's the lady first thing, Mrs. Sayers. Please state your first and last name.
Mary Himes, and I'm a mother of a son just got killed back there January the 30th. And I was just trying to see, I tried to call the detectives, they're not telling me nothing. They know a lot, but they're not telling me nothing. Or don't call us, we'll call you. I have to call them every other month. Or, you know, it's all kind of stuff that they're not doing for the city. Natchitoches too small for too many murders to happen back to back like that. You know, there ain't nothing getting done. Nothing, not nothing. And they don't understand they ain't lose a loved one. That takes a void out of my heart every day. Every day I cry because I miss my child. He got killed behind his house in Highland Park. What I don't understand, police can tour everywhere else, but that night they didn't tour by the park. Every night, they, from 10:30 to 8 o'clock when the city found him in the park. And I don't think that's right. So somebody need to do something. They really need to do. Whoever gonna do something, they need to step up and do what they need to do.
Thank you, Ms. Himes, and sorry for your loss, and sorry for the loss of everybody else who's experienced such pain.
Yes, my name is Gloria Carter, and I'm the aunt of Ranger Duke. They got murdered back in January in Highland Park. But my thing is today, if y'all can go around and pick up people that robbing, stealing, and fighting, but why they ain't solving the case on these murders? So I think J.D. Oliver should be the one to step in and help the police force out, because it's too much going on. But I'm gonna say this, I might be wrong, but when the murder got solved with that Cox guy killed this man, they saw that murder right on. But these other black ones around here, they just saying another black one gone from the neighborhood. Why? They all losing a loved one. Y'all don't know what my sister feel, what my first cousin them feeling, and nobody else. Something need to be done, really, something need to be done. If we got to take this to Baton Rouge over y'all head, I'm down for it, because I'm about that. I'm on something solid.
Thank you for your comments, ma'am, and sorry for your loss as well. I see we got a couple people. Yes, sir.
My name is Craig Annis, and I have serious questions on this public safety commissioner. This town is losing approximately 500 people a year for the last 4 years. We don't need another level of bureaucracy. We could probably hire 4 or 5 police officers for what this position is going to cost you. Plain and simple. Put the police on the street, let them do the job. Thank you.
All right, I see you. Ms. Payne, Mrs. Payne? And please state your first and last name, ma'am.
I'm Betty Payne, and I understand I'm definitely not going to be disrespectful, but the problem is in our neighborhoods, the black neighborhoods, I'm not trying to play the race game or anything like that, but the problem is in the black neighborhoods. And you can have, there's no boots on the ground in our neighborhood, but downtown there is. You can come any given weekend, you got 5 or 6 police officers on this end, 5 or 6 police officers on the end, but never do they patrol our area until a tragedy happens. So it's easy for someone else to say what we don't need, but we need help in the black community because this is out of hand. And this area is too small for all these murders not being solved. And like I say, my heart go out to you because I lost a cousin too, but it was out in the parish. But the same situation, no answers, no nothing. Never hear from them, nothing. The day they show up the day the murder is, but you never hear anything else from them. But we are citizens too, and we deserve to be safe. We deserve to come out of our houses and be safe, can't drive down the street because we're scared. No, that's not right. And there's no reflection on the chief or anything, but we need help. And the problem is in the black community. And so nobody's gonna understand it but us. But something has to be done. I don't know about the tactics of the money and all this stuff, but whatever we need to do to get things under control in this city, it needs to be done. I live on West Lakeshore. Never do I see a police pass through there. Never. When I say never, never does a police patrol that area. But if I come across town, I see them sitting on the phone and all this and stuff. But no one never comes down that street. I've called several times because we have people just passing through there. We know that that's not a good thing because they're holding backpacks and all that. You have to call the police. So why can't police patrol our area? Okay, I'm for boots on the ground. But why have boots on the ground if they're not going to take action? So I think it should be asked, the question should be asked, why are they not getting involved? That's my question. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mrs. Payne, and sorry for your loss as well. Mr. Sias, and Steve, you still got my timer, right? So it's 2 minutes per, right?
You don't have to put me on time, Mayor. Call CS. You see, I've been talking about this all along. nobody want to hear what I had to say. Louis Farrakhan said some things just not long ago about our community. We have to stand up and be a voice. The police, you can't blame the police chief for crime. People see things happening in the community and see a murderer standing right there, and they say, I won't say anything. It's wrong. Until the community speak up as a community, and we all in this together. I lost a brother. Same way, baby. I know how y'all feel. But understand one thing. Through the end, we have to work together as a community. We have to rely on the police source that we have. We can't blame it on the chief of police, say the chief ain't doing anything. They are doing, the people are not. People see your people get killed, and they know who these murderers is on the streets, but they are not coming forth and saying nothing. So how would you blame the police department for not doing their job simply because when they go out and ask questions, people have cameras on their houses and things, and they take the cameras down because they don't want the police to know any information. This is what I'm talking about. So how can we sit up here and say that, hey, the police doing their job? But as a community of people, we need to be the voice of the community. We need to put rules and regulations in our community and not wait on somebody else downtown to put rules and regulations. If you live in Beta Heights, there will be rules and communication among your people where you know what's going on in your community. This is what I'm talking about.
Thank you, Mr. Sias. Appreciate your comments. And sorry for your loss as well, sir. All right. Is there anybody else in the audience? All right, this time I want to allow the council to make some remarks.
Mayor. Go ahead.
ladies first.
I'll leave it to you.
You know, I think what we're hearing, you know, and I sympathize with everybody who's lost a loved one, is, you know, boots on the ground. And so when we talk about that, we have to have the important conversation of how are we going to make this happen. And so it's been circulating around the city concerning utility rates and things like that. Well, we want to have these officers, but we also got to find a way to fund them, you know. And so I think that we need to continue to have the conversation. We'd had a series of town halls. I think we had maybe 3 or 4.
Really, all together this year, 7, but 3 lately, 1 in August, 2 in September.
Yeah, and also with that too, we also had low participation at these town halls. We had one right there on Amulet Street at the church on the right there, Amulet, and so nobody was there. I think we had 2 individuals show up. So, you know, I've been getting a ton of calls concerning, you know, the rate increases, but I think that we should understand why we're trying to do what we're trying to do, you know. And so I'm not one to, you know, want to increase everybody. You know, I understand, hey, look, you know, you got this single parent here, you know, you got this elderly lady, you know, they can't afford, their income is set, but also, too, we have to look at this side of it, you know. So I think that we need to continue to have the conversation on what we can do overall, because it's just not one individual that's going to change this. Like what Mr. Carr said, it takes a community, it takes the police, it takes everybody working together in order to really get this ball rolling with these murders.
Yep. Thank you, Councilman PT.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor. I want to say first, I sympathize with the people here who've lost loved ones. Yeah, my deepest sympathy. And on that note, I want to say also, I don't want to offend anyone, and I know what I'm saying is probably not going to be pleasing to a lot of people. But I'm gonna say what I feel is best for the city overall. Okay. Yes. And I'm speaking, I hope, on behalf of all the council members that are here. We all have a concern about safety in our community and about the crime here in Natchitoches. But with that being said, I personally do not believe that put in a position of an administrator as public safety director is going to decrease or help with crime. That's not going to do it. If we, the council, the mayor is not pleased with the position of what the police chief is doing at this time, then maybe he may want to replace, and then please don't take it the wrong way, but if you're not pleased with what that person is doing, then look at replacing that person. But don't try to put a position in place with monies that could be spent on trying to hire new officers. We're losing officers. These officers are going somewhere else where they can make a decent living. When they leave their home every day, they're faced with their families don't know if they're coming back home the next day. You know, the firemen, they go out to put out a fire. They don't know if they're coming back home the next day. They could get burned up in a fire. Our workers are underpaid. You can go to Target and make more than what our police officers and firemen are making, $8 an hour, and working over 244 hours a month for minimum wage, little or nothing. People working in hair salons and beauty shops making more than these people making, who putting their lives on the line every day. And so what I'm saying is, I don't feel we need a position of a public safety commission. We need more officers here in Natchitoches. We need more firemen here in Natchitoches. We need to put that money where it could go to help bring safety to our people and put more people out on the street, as y'all been talking about earlier. And I know some of you been asked to come here to promote J.D. off, and I'm not against J.D. I've known him a long time. I worked with him several years when I worked at the judge's office. I know him. He's a good person, but it has nothing to do with J.D. Offin. It has to do with safety for our people, for our community, for the city of Natchitoches. And so I'm just saying, I hope we can look at putting the money that we're putting off into this position to hire officers, workforce here in Natchitoches. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councilwoman at Large. Look, and I want to also give our other councils the opportunity to speak. And I think Councilwoman at Large Smith knows this because we've been talking about this for some time now, that I think people want to conflate these two things, saying that this public safety commissioner is something that's going to take away from adding more officers. I mean, we've been talking for months. We've had town halls. As Councilman PT knows, we knew that the only way to really do that is to address your rates in some way. It's painful. Not everybody that's an agenda item that we're introducing later on. So just to make sure we're clear, it's not one for the other, or doing one negatively affects the other. It's not an either this or that. That's not what we're talking about here. Because we've been talking for some months the way to get more officers, and the money that this position would be, I think you may have 1.5 officers. So you're gonna need to have way more money than that.
Mayor, you said we've been talking for months. I don't know who we are. You brought this up to me last Monday. I don't know who are the others we've been talking to for months.
Well,
but I know I was informed of it last Monday, which may have been if I'm correct, the 5th, 4th, I can't remember.
I think you're not understanding what I'm saying in terms of months. Mm-hmm. We've been talking for months in terms of how we're gonna get paid for officers. When each of us came into office, we knew that this was an issue, a problem. And I know some folks have said, well, you're moving too slow with it. But I will say this, and this is really the next agenda item, that when it comes to the residents' money and bottom line, you have to take consideration. You have to take your time on things of that nature. So when I'm speaking of talking for months, I'm speaking specifically of officer pay. That's what we've been talking about months for.
We have. We haven't made any move on that as of yet. I think the last time
tonight.
we talked was $15. We're not talking about officer pay tonight, are we?
Yeah, that's 086.
No, we're talking about creating a position. Officer pay
Well,
has nothing to do
that's
with
one
public
agenda
safety
item,
commissioner.
But
That's
move
what I'm
down
saying.
3 agenda items. That's what 086 is about, as
I'm
we've
not
been
at
talking about for
086.
months.
You're trying to intertwine both of them. I understand this.
No, actually,
but
I think you are. That's what I said. You're doing.
No, I have on mine, the human resource manager and I'm sure the others do too.
Yeah, that's
human
083, but
resource.
086, as we've been seeking for months, is about what we're gonna do about office space. Councilwoman Washington Eli? you got
She's
something?
doing that one?
You have a
No,
comment?
Yes, I do. I would like to say to the parents that I thank you all for coming out and speaking up and doing what's right. Also, I would like to say, to the board, yes, we do need more officers. A lot of us, we have several ones that come up, say that what they can do. We have social media backgrounds. We have a lot of people that comes to Facebook and say what they can do. But tonight, a lot of you parents came out and y'all actually really told the chief exactly how y'all felt and what y'all needed him to do. It's not replacing the chief. It's basically saying that, hey, maybe we can use another eye to help out. The amount of money that, and I think Ms. Carissa could actually really go into details with that, would not replace 12 officers or what we actually really need on the streets. Back when I was young, we had a lot of neighborhood watch, people that will take care of our kids, but now it's all about social media. People get on there bashing, talking about everyone, and a lot of kids are looking at the same detail about rap, and a lot of them getting killed over rap, social media. That is one of our biggest main part of crime. I can go on and on and on, and I can use a prime example of how my nephew had an incident and my sister had to come all the way over from Walmart to travel from Front Street to Payne, calling the police with no help. And I think what it is and stuff that, we just need help. Chief is a great chief. Maybe we need another eye, and also, with the next agenda that's coming up, and I know a lot of people are probably here saying, about the rates. Maybe we, a lot of us can actually really come together because it's just for introduction, and we can all come to one accord and say exactly what do we want the mayor and the city council to do. We're here to help, but the only way that we are able to help if y'all come exactly how y'all are now. And that's basically what I have to say.
Thank you, Councilwoman Washington Eli. Yes, ma'am. And it'll be you.
Carolyn Roy, are you saying that number 86, the money from the utility increase will be for officers? I'm confused about number 86.
Yeah, and I tell you, can we talk about that when we get to there? We'll kind of lay all of that out. We've got some folks who are going to speak on that, including department head. But we'll clear that up. Councilman Harrington.
And I don't even want to fathom losing a child the way y'all did. I can't even, I'm sorry that happened. I can't even think going through that. And to me, the best way to help that, to stop that happening again and to mitigate that is to use funds more efficiently and effectively to solve the crime. It keeps being brought up, we need more boots on the ground, and we need more police officers. We need better pay for our police and our fire. Their pay is appalling and shocking, as that's already been brought up. The morale for the departments is extremely low. I've been told by some in the departments at an all-time low. The police department right now is 12 officers down where it should be. That's 12 officers that should be out patrolling more, okay? That should be out patrolling your neighborhoods. That's 12 officers to be here, to be even. We need to be here. We need to have a lot more than just 12 more officers, and we know we do, and the crime shows that we do. And having those 12 officers down is making our current officers work like dogs. They're working nonstop. They're working around the clock and getting paid less than you get paid at Hobby Lobby, okay? We know this, and the mayor's right, we've been talking about this. I mean, we've been talking about this for years, frankly, and I think we had studies done like a year and a half ago about how to increase pay, how to hire more of them. Hiring a new administration, hiring someone behind a desk isn't going to solve that problem. We have administration. We have people behind desks already. We have several of them. We have the police chief, and we have everyone under the police chief who's behind a desk. Hiring someone else doing the same thing and having the same job description as they already have isn't going to cut it. To me, it goes completely against the solution. And then at the public hearing, it said this money's coming from savings, that it'll be budgeted from savings.
The press conference.
In the press conference. It was budgeted from savings from the police budget, from the police personnel budget, which goes completely against everything we've talked about police pay. So what you're looking at, yes, the next agenda item with our utilities is
A few down.
a few down, is what we've been talking about, one way to get pay for our police, okay? But we're talking about starting here, where we're at right now, and hoping our utility rates go here. Passing this position, instead of starting here, now we're starting here. And now those utility rates, instead of starting at this level, now we're lower. Because now we took, to be frank, with this guy, Mr. Oliphant, if it passes with his pay, with all his benefits, it'll be 6 figures. So you're looking at taking 6 figures out of the police personnel budget for an administrative position. That could be 3 more officers right there. I mean, I'm just throwing that number out. I'm not exactly sure. But it could be more officers. Yet again, instead of starting here and trying to get better pay, more officers, now we're starting lower. And for what? I'm not really sure. To me, it's a slap in the police officer's face. It's a slap in the fire department's face, because everything I said is the same for the fire department. I know we're just all focusing on the police department at the moment, but everything goes for the same for the fire department. It's a slap in our citizens' faces, and frankly, it's a slap in our faces. And the reason it's a slap in our faces is we knew nothing about it. This didn't come up to us until a few days before the press conference. There was no discussion. I've never met Mr. Oliphant. I don't even think he's here tonight. We've never received a resume from Mr. Oliphant. Today, I got a brief about his background. It wasn't a resume. It had no references in it. It's shocking. It's appalling. It's embarrassing for the police, for the fire, for us. I'm embarrassed. I think Mr. Oliphant needs an apology. He may be the best candidate for this job. I have no idea. But we should have met on this months ago. Mr. Oliphant, I feel, was just thrown into this, not knowing that if he would have met with us, if this was a discussion months ago about this and how to go about it, and we met with Mr. Oliphant, then he might have realized the council's not behind this fully, and instead of being embarrassed in public. This is absolutely nothing to do with Mr. Oliphant. It's about being efficient and effective and how to use that money to stop what's happening and how to have more people in these neighborhoods, because getting him in this job isn't going to have a single extra person in these neighborhoods. He's not going to be out there doing any of this.
So, Eddie, let me
I'm not
something.
done.
Hold on, wait a minute, wait.
And so, treating our officers and firefighters better, getting more boots on the ground, period. That just the utility rates isn't going to cut it. Taking, even before that's increased, directly taking money from them for another administrative position is just going to have the utility rates try to fill that gap first before it can ever hire anyone else. And so that's just period. That aside, we haven't even seen the ordinance. I have an introduction of the ordinance. never even read the ordinance. It's being introduced to us today, don't have the ordinance, don't know exactly what it says. I got where it talks about a human resource director. Don't know why that's in there. It makes it look like the human resource director is also Mr. Oliphant. Don't know. If it's a separate individual, which I now know it is, it should be two separate ordinances, not an ordinance for both individuals. But we don't even have the ordinance, so I don't even know that. And yet it's being introduced to us today.
The ordinance is not in their packet?
It's
No.
not. It's not.
Okay.
86 wasn't in my package. I
I mean,
have it now.
I've got it here.
I have it now.
Yeah.
Steve put it on here for me.
I was
I
just
mean,
about to tell you that.
I review, I take this job,
Right.
I take this position very seriously. I'm not in it for the money. I'm in it to do what is best for the city. And that's what I try to do and prepare for every meeting. And for every meeting, I try to read every ordinance. I'm an attorney, so I'm a nerd with that, and I'm used to reading all this stuff, whatever. I can't read any of it. I don't have it. I don't even know what it says. So that's just frustrating to me.
I agree with you, Eddie, on that.
But that's what I was wanting to tell you, Eddie, that you had it in your package.
It's not in there.
It wasn't in there. Steve
No.
brought it up.
Oh, because
Brought it
mine's up.
It's not even on my computer. And it shouldn't be on my computer at the meeting when we're talking about it. The first time I should get it should be last week when I got the email and nothing's in it.
Well, I think you read the charter, Eddie. What has to happen is a summary of the deal, and that's pretty much all it has to be, not the
Yeah, but the
entire
summary
ordinance.
doesn't even list a name, doesn't even list an individual, doesn't list anything, doesn't list what their job description is.
Well, I'm not sure what you're reading, but mine it does.
I'll read it to you right here. An ordinance to create the position of Public Safety Commissioner.
That's just a little title.
That's all I've
where's the-
received. That's all I've received is the title. Nothing else. I've not seen a single other document. Neither is Betty, neither is Chris, neither is Dale. I
Mr.
can't speak for
Mr.
Rosemary.
Harrington, if I can interject for just a moment. I had Mr. Murchison to work on the legislation for this upcoming council's meeting. My father was in the hospital, so I asked him to work on it. I think by Friday, he provided maybe the title and subsequently the body of the ordinance. So if it's not in your packet, it's no fault of Stacy's, number one.
No, I know that. I know she didn't have it.
So,
I know.
So somehow in the transition from Mr. Murchison to the clerk's office, somehow it didn't make your packet.
Well-
I'm looking at it here. I thought you had it in your packet.
The frustrating thing, and I can speak on behalf of Dale too, because he told me I could. He's not here today because he's having a grandbaby, and he's adamantly against this as well, by the way. And the frustrating thing is, yet again, we haven't had an ordinance. We don't even know exactly what it says. We don't know exactly what the human resources part is. It's separate, da-da-da. But there's already been a public announcement for this before the ordinance was even created, before a vote, before it was even introduced, before any discussions were even had with us. And that's very frustrating.
Well, that's the nature of how this works. I think you know that, Councilman Harrington, from administrative reorganization. You have the person, it says very clearly, and we went over this in our meetings
A few days before the public.
Well, we went over it, and I showed you the tentative chart this here, and I told you I wanted to add human resources and director of public safety. So all of this was covered in our meeting, and I shared what it says very clearly, section 4.09, page 18, of what needs to happen. So actually, the public hearing doesn't take place until the next meeting. And so you introduce it, and
No, I meant
you have your
the
person.
announcement.
What about the announcement?
It was made before an ordinance was even created. It was made before even introduced before the council, before even voted on.
But you knew before the announcement.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't, you
If you
could
want to get into
decide.
semantics, and I also informed you, I do not believe you should move forward with that announcement Did I not inform you that? I said, it's my opinion, you should not do it. We haven't even voted on it. If it's passed, then I believe you should move forward with the announcement.
Hey, but the nature of how the reorganization works is something has to be announced. I mean, it says
That's
something
here.
has to go before
And that's
the
yeah,
council.
that's the city
At this
council.
meeting.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be this meeting. I want to say this. All of us agree that we live in the greatest country in the world. Despite our strengths of the world's finest military, we boast some of the most innovative people who produce the handheld computer and other gadgets. But despite all of that, we have our share of challenges. One of the challenges that many cities are facing, as we are here in Natchitoches, is the increase in shootings and deaths caused by gun violence. Chief Collins pulled some stats for me, and I'm looking at a few of them. Homicide by shooting, we had 2 in 2018, 3 in 2019, 3 in 2020, 5 in 2021, and 7. Really, that should be 8 right now at this point, because we just included Mr. Rajay Stackhouse, was just murdered November 28th. And there are some other stats. I mean, theft by vehicle, 206 in 2018, 154, 130, 196. So it looks like there was a dip and then shot up to 264 this year. Illegal use of a weapon, 2018, 158, 19, 198, and then all the way to 305 at this particular point. We may deliberate the causes of the increase in violence in general, but most residents don't want to linger on why, but how we address this wicked problem. We can't sufficiently address this issue without a teamwork mentality, and I agree with individuals who have stated we've got to have teamwork. We can't just point at the officers or the chief, the fire chief or police chief or whoever, and say, what are you doing? We've got to work together as a community in many ways. I've also often said that this wicked problem is a puzzle that has many pieces to it. It's not just one piece to this problem, but there are actually many pieces to it. When I came into office, I worked with the DA and his staff to develop the city's first ever Crime Stoppers organization. Crime Stoppers is designed to help our law enforcement personnel to obtain information about a crime that has been committed in Natchitoches. People can even receive a monetary reward for giving information that leads to an arrest. The second initiative that we worked on was getting the Boys and Girls Club back in action in Natchitoches. The City Council supported that all of the way. People like Van Erickson, as I mentioned, were crucial to getting the rest of the funding for that program. Many local entities financially contributed to the reestablishment of the Boys and Girls Club. I worked with Senator Bernard to get funding for Big Brothers, Big Sisters. We sent out a press release today about the next session of the Mayor's Youth Council. We hired 30 youth this summer to teach them job skills and to keep them positively occupied. We're even working to have a summer literacy program here in Natchitoches next summer. Kevin and his group have expanded the Angel Fund at Parks and Rec, which is a concept that will allow more of our youth to participate in our youth sports. All of these pieces are in the mix, and they've come about in only just a couple of years. So we've been working And we haven't just started working on this issue. To be sure, we at the City of Natchitoches don't have all of the pieces. One of the issues in which we have to deal with the consequences is the lack of space for juvenile facilities. As much as we don't like to talk about such a thing, I'm all about people facing punishment for the crimes they commit. I've always been supportive of this idea. Scripture says that God chastises those he loves. We've been discussing ways with the sheriff in which the detention center may be used so we could show punishment for those who need it. And there are even some laws that perhaps need to be reviewed on the state and federal levels to help with crime on the local level. It's not just about us. Now, this, as I said, that there are pieces to the puzzle. In addition to more facility, I think that a commissioner of public safety will enhance what we do already. This is not meant, as Councilman Harrington say, to be a slap in anybody's face. I worked in education for years, and even in your own respective jobs, there are levels to just about any position. I say levels, maybe there's a better word, but specifically in education, you had an educator, obviously you had a principal, but you also had master teachers. And the master teacher was there to support what the teacher was doing. Was there to help the educator to implement policies and strategies whereby the students could learn. And that's very similar to what this position would do. In fact, the job description says to provide administrative and operational input regarding day-to-day operations of the police and fire departments. We are dealing with a major situation. And I think all of the council knows that while we haven't talked about this position very long, it hasn't been a thought. It was introduced to me at the beginning of my administration. I didn't think much about it. We have discussed constantly how we can get more money for our public safety personnel, and I would say even for other personnel as well, as we have dealt with record inflation these last 2 years. So I think conflating and trying to say that this position means that you don't have these officers, we've already been talking for a very long time, and we're finally about to move in that direction. Councilman Harrington, I think you made the point about, you know, where the salary is coming from and if it's going to take away from NPD, and I certainly know what reference you're talking about, but I could say there are any number of ways we could afford this position. I had a vehicle that I was planning to get, as most mayors do, $75,000. That's been cut. I think you could even take it from ARPA, because there's language in ARPA, American Rescue Plan Act, that makes it clear for public safety and for protection of our city. So this initiative does not take any way from hiring more officers. I think that's been clear, and that's what we have talked about. Now, I think there was an article that somebody put, and I just want to address that real quickly, because again, this is just the introduction. The public hearing is later on. Someone said that, you know, that's what bigger cities do and bigger departments, and but if you haven't noticed it, Natchitoches is starting to deal with some bigger city issues. I said some years ago, hey, ain't no gangs in Natchitoches, what are they talking about? But if it walks like a gang, it talks like a gang, it's probably a gang. So this is not an effort to just do something. This is something that I think is logical, and there's precedent for it. It's been in New Orleans, that's a bigger city. Alexandria, slightly bigger than we are. Shreveport has had this type of position before. And even Bogalusa, a town of 10,569 people, which is much smaller than we are. I understand that feelings have been disturbed. I get that. But also, I am also unapologetic about that. 100% of the time when there are competing feelings on the table, 100% of the time, I'm putting the safety of our residents number one. If I didn't think chiefs were competent, they wouldn't be here. This is a move. What I said is that being your mayor, I don't want to be the smartest person in the room, that we need intelligent people to help us to make Natchitoches a better place. And this is what that would do. This would be somebody with a dynamic resume, with a dynamic story that I have shared with you all, who's worked his way up to number 2 in the state police, the superintendent of patrol. It would complement the dynamic minds of Chief Wynn and Collins. That's all this is. And it's about, and if that hurts feelings, again, I'm unapologetic about it because it's about keeping the residents safe. Because whether y'all think about it or not, every day I think about Rendrick Duke, murdered January 31st of this year. I think about Kemanisha Carter. You heard from her mother and grandmother and other family members, murdered March 17th of this year, left back a beautiful son. I think about the double homicide, well, not really double homicide at that point, but on Father's Day, a murder not really so much connected to Natchitoches, but still occurred here. I think about the Saturday after Father's Day, the double homicide at French Market. I think about August the 8th, J. Tucson Jr., who has a beautiful 5-year-old daughter. Then I go to September 25th, Mr. Jaquarian Casson, who was murdered. He had a child with one of my former students. And then, most recently, had to take part, watch the pain of one of the employees of this city bury a nephew, Rajay Stackhouse, 19 years of age, 19 years of life. Whatever resource, it's not an either or, it's a both and. Whatever resource we can use to help to reduce it. This is not the only piece, but I think when you think about Crime Stoppers, Boys and Girls Club, paying officers more, getting more officers, getting more firemen, and this piece as well is going to help us to face this wicked problem. So let's not paint the false picture that this is doing one X out the other. That's a piece we need, but this is a piece I think we need as well. And I'm sorry you're not pleased with the way the charter says we have to do things, but.
Well, no, we're doing it right by bringing it to the council introduction is before it's brought to the council. The charter doesn't mention anything about that. You're talking about other funds used to pay it. You mentioned a truck that wasn't paid for, $70,000, or the American Rescue Plan.
There's an earmark as well we were gonna give for
Yes.
police and fire.
That's one time. This is a permanent position that has to be budgeted every year.
And so then you budget for it. And I don't think it's a position necessarily that's needed forever, but,
Well, then make it part-time.
well,
Not
here's
a
what I'm
six-
saying.
Not a six-figure permanent position.
Here's what I'm saying. Chief of Staff is on the org chart. It's not currently being filled. But I don't think it needs to be wiped off. For this time in our history, what people are feeling, I don't know about y'all, I'm getting calls every day.
We get calls too, Mayor.
Yeah,
Folks telling me they're not safe.
yeah. We are too. We're getting calls, we need more police on the streets.
Yeah.
Every day.
And
I
not directly taking money from it to start lower, to work its way back up.
You don't have to. You can, if, is public safety important?
Ab-
Look,
it's-
we've got to go on.
Every single penny that we have needs to be spent on more police and better police pay. Every penny we have. If we have more money than that can be used elsewhere, guess what?
Hey, it's a philosophical difference.
Public
The
Works
brightest
is
minds.
greatly undermanned.
You want to have the brightest minds on an issue. We've got two bright minds. I'm not intimidated. I'm not intimidated. You want to have the brightest minds
Yeah.
on an issue, especially an issue like this.
I'm all for a
It's
consultant
not, but you're
coming in.
still going
Yeah.
back to either or. I think I've been very clear with you that it's not either or. And we got to move on.
Yeah.
Because
Well-
there's a lot of things going
Well,
on.
one part that was never discussed was the human resources section of this ordinance. Yet again, I don't understand why.
Yeah, that's really clean up. I figured we're you don't reorganize every day. This is a position we had open. Ed had been doing the job, all right? Ed's got some other duties working with public disaster. But working with that, he's getting some training on that. Human resources need to be separate,
Yeah.
in my opinion, after seeing how the city works. Nothing against Ed. It just needs to be a separate person doing it.
But
So
is-
while you're reorganizing, go ahead and reorganize.
But is there a way, is there a way we can restructure this or have two separate ordinances?
We could, but I think your concern is voting on one, approving one, do you have to approve both?
Yeah,
Right,
that's
right.
a concern.
Right. I wouldn't think so. We would make the ordinance clear, the minutes be clear what you voted to approve.
But this
But if-
ordinance
if-
need to be redone because both are inherent together. Wouldn't the ordinance have to be revised to separate these two positions? There's another person for the human resource position other than, aside from the public safety commissioner position?
I think that the ordinance, we could separate them out, but since we're doing a reorganization, we just merged them both in the same reorganization.
It's all reorganization is what it is.
Because it all
Should've
falls
been
up under 401.
And reorganizations don't happen all the time.
The section
So that's
49.
why. Yes, Ms. Carolyn, I see Mr. Stelly.
should've been
Can you come real quick and we got to move on?
What's that?
Mr. Stelly, are you saying you have a question too?
No, I just want to know what Councilman Chief think about.
I thought he said something earlier. Yeah. I know we've been on it for a long time, but he has said something. Yes, Ms. Carolyn Worrell.
Carolyn Roy, can you give me the salaries for the public safety commissioner, the purchasing and human resources?
I would have to get back with you on purchasing and human resources, I think, but the proposed salary for the public safety commissioner because of separation is $85,000.
Thank you.
All right. All right, again, this is all just introduction, so let's move on to the next item on the agenda, which is, who's reading this, Mrs. Stacy?
Ms. Smith.
Okay, Ms. Smith.
Okay, this is ordinance 84 of 2022, which is an ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Natchitoches to award the bid for HVAC improvements at the Natchitoches Event Center. This is bid number 0653, whereas the resolution number 085 of 2022 was passed by the Natchitoches City Council on September 26, 2022, authorizing the mayor to advertise for the bids for the HVAC improvements at the Natchitoches Event Center. Whereas the bid was advertised in the Natchitoches Times on September 29th, October 6th, and October 13th, 2022, in accordance with law. And whereas one bid proposal was received and opened as follows: ACA Mechanical Industrial LLC of Alexandria, Louisiana, bid being $708,500. Whereas the above appointed committee members, Clarissa Smith, Finance Director, Ed Lee, Director of Purchasing, Rennie Lacasse, Director of Community Development, and Dale Nielsen, Councilman, hereby unanimously recommend the city award the bid to the one bid received to ACA Mechanical Industrial in the amount of $708,500. Now therefore be it ordained that the Honorable Mayor, Ronnie Williams, Jr., is hereby authorized, empowered, and directed to sign any and all documents necessary for acceptance of this bid. And that's for introduction.
All right, Ed, I think you could do this?
Yep, we've talked about this one probably off and on for a year now. This is part of the LCDBG block grant related to the coronavirus, COVID. And we started off with a $400,000 grant. There was obvious we needed more. We asked for more, went up to $800,000, asked again for 1.6 million. So we're at 1.6 million on the grant to do two buildings, the Event Center and the MLK Rec Center. Well, the way equipment is going right now, even 1.6 million wasn't enough. We had to do some a deductive change order, some value engineering on this one as well as the MLK Rec Center. When this one is to be voted on in January, there will be a deductive change order. We had to take some equipment out of it, but it was equipment, not the core of the big main unit. It was smaller items in the event center. So there will be a deductive change order that will be voted on the same night after this is awarded in the amount of $162,000. So we will be deducting $162,000 off of this bid after the award is made.
Okay. Any questions or comments for Ed? All righty. Again, this is just introduction. Thanks, Ed, for that explanation. Next item on the agenda is ordinance number 85 of 2022. Councilwoman at-large Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance number 85 of 2022 is an ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Natchitoches to award the bid for HVAC improvements at the Martin Luther King Jr. Recreation Community Center. Bid number 0649. Whereas resolution number 086 of 2022 was passed by the City Council on September 26, 2022, authorizing the mayor to advertise for bids for HVAC improvements at the MLK Center, bid number 0649. Whereas this bid was advertised in the Natchitoches Times on September 29th, October 6th, and October 13th. And in accordance with law, two bids were proposed, were received and opened, one bid being ACA Mechanical Industrial LLC out of Alexandria, Louisiana, in the amount of $1,218,000. Sunstream of Natchitoches, Louisiana, $1,535,000. Whereas on December 7, 2022, the appointing committee of Clarissa Smith, Ed Lee, Kevin Warner, and Rosemary Eli unanimously recommended that the city award the bid to the lowest bidder, ACA Mechanical Industrial, in an amount of $1,218,000. Now therefore be it ordained that the Honorable Ronnie Williams Jr., Mayor, is hereby authorized empowered and directed to sign any and all documents necessary for acceptance of this bid. It's for introduction only.
Okay. More you, Ed, or Kevin? Ed
Very
again?
similar to the
Yep.
other one, same, part of the same grant, and this one, when it's voted on to be awarded at the January meeting, we will immediately follow up with a deductive change order in the amount of $127,000, taking some minor things out of the project to make it more affordable.
Okay. Comments or questions for Ed? All righty, seeing none, again, that's just for introduction. Next item is ordinance number 086, and that's Councilman Harrington.
Ordinance
And
86
Mayor,
of,
excuse me 1 second, we have one change to ordinance 86. Under ordinance 86, we couldn't change it because Mr. Murchison had some computer issues, so we couldn't change this document for today. But it should read rates for sewer service and rates for water use after electrical services.
okay, yeah, I understand that.
Okay.
Ordinance 86 of 2022, an ordinance to amend and reenact section 30-18 and 30-42, both of which are located in Article 4 of Section 30 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Natchitoches entitled Utilities. Said amendments being made to implement changes in new rates for electrical service and a new rate schedule for water. Is that, and sewer, is that in that spot?
Yes, and new rates for water, yeah.
Water and sewer use, which new rate structure has been proposed in an electrical and water rate study prepared by Schuler Consulting Company, providing for advertising, further providing for severability, and further providing for a repealer. I'll read by introduction only. There's a lot to discuss, I know.
Yep. We do have a couple individuals here. Well, Mr. Jimmy Hagan, we're going to ask you to come in just a moment. I do have a PowerPoint, a different PowerPoint. Go ahead and get that for me, sir. What I want to go ahead and share is, while Steve is getting that PowerPoint, that really I think it was my third week in office. I was pulled in the room. Matt, you were there. Charles Brosset was there. Charles was the utility director at the time. Matt wasn't the director at the time, right? Henry Schuler was there and some other utility folks. And what we had was, I ran on saying, look, we're going to improve the infrastructure of the city. And I guess I was thinking streets and light poles and sidewalks and things like that. And thankfully, we've been successful with the RAISE grant to do just some of that that we said we wanted to do. But I really wasn't thinking about water infrastructure. And I got to tell you, folks, running a city is really, really expensive, all right? It takes a lot of money. And a lot of times folks will come to you and they'll say, look, we need to do this. Anytime I hear somebody say we need to do, I'm thinking dollar signs because it is an insane amount of money. I'm going somewhere, it's going to seem kind of odd at first, but go ahead for me, Steve, to the next slide. I want you to understand the source, one thing, and we're going to get to, Jimmy is going to come up in just a little bit. He's going to come and do the water rate study, and Rick Nyland, who did our electric rate study, kind of what Eddie referenced earlier, some of these studies that we had to do, that took some time. And we have some graphs in the back from those studies. Most of them, I think, are related to the electric rate study that Rick will explain the next meeting, but Matt can say some things, and then you got the water rate study. Hit the first, there are two things here. I just want to be clear, because I know people have their information. November 4th, there was an article in the online news we have around here, right, that Kevin works for. Kevin does a great job, by the way. But November 4th, it said, it is a responsibility of City Council, led by the mayor, to fund the police department first. All right, that's after a series of, I think, articles Chief had written, and then they did a podcast or something like that. And so there's this little article with a picture of myself and the council, actually a pretty good picture of us, by the way. But it said, look, the City Council and the mayor got to do something, right? And then December 10th, there was one that says, I was actually in the gym, which I don't get to go to a whole lot nowadays, but I was in the gym and I saw how the article was written in that online version that we have around here, right? It says, Mayor said to ask the council for utilities increase. Now, I just want to be clear that we know what we're dealing with and we know the source. And there's a reason I'm saying this is because really this started out as something that utility told me that needed to happen. And I'll be honest, I'll say some things later on. I kind of thought that they were blowing smoke a little bit. I kind of thought that, hey, you know how somebody overstates a problem just to get what they want? And I never told Matt this, but I kind of thought, hey, these guys are making this problem seem worse than it is so they can get this project done. But, so when you see things, Mayor said to ask the council, these are related to issues that really just common sense you have to address over time, because if you don't address your aging infrastructure, there are things that are going to happen to it. There's another slide real quick, Steve, that I want to go ahead and share. This one was shared on December 7th, and it said very clearly in that online version that we have here, right? We got a paper version, but the online version said that tax increase coming. And this was talking about the River South Commons and said, look, tax increase. Now, what I did, you can go back real quick, Steve. What I did, I researched when Hobby Lobby came, because Hobby Lobby actually came under my predecessor, but I didn't see this red arrow alerting the public, you're going to get a tax increase on Hobby Lobby. Let me just say this, because you do not get some businesses without some incentives, all right? I just want to be clear as to why I'm saying that. So when you're looking at certain medias around here, know that sometimes there is an agenda associated with it, okay? So we did the EDD on River South Commons, you get the big tax increase sign, one done by my predecessor, which I would have done too. I would have done the one my predecessor did, because you don't get Hobby Lobby without it. Yes, it's a 1% for 10 to 12 years, but you don't get Hobby Lobby without it. You don't get Whataburger probably. You don't get McAllister's either, all right? Without that EDD on River South Commons, you don't get Harbor Freight, which they're doing some work right now, all right? They open up a wall. You don't get Big Lots. You don't get Bales. I dropped in Bales about a week ago. I'm now able to get some Levi's when I need to, because we have that business here.
And that's 1% if you buy something from the store.
Yeah.
Because some people think it's, oh, I'm paying extra tax everywhere.
It's just in that to make it work, there's a gap to make it work. Now, I'm saying all this because we were faced, as, you know, we're coming in the office, we're faced with, you know, major decisions have to be made. In that meeting that I mentioned, that Matt was there, Brosé was there, Henry Schuler was there, they hand me two sheets, one with $4 million needed in repairs for water plant number 3. They hand me another sheet, $17 million. And those are pretty big numbers for me at the time. Again, I was only 3 weeks in. So those are major numbers. I've gotten used to those numbers now, right? But it's clearly a major project, over $20 million of a project that we have to do. Everything I heard in that meeting, it was painting a dire state of our infrastructure. Again, when I was running, I told you some of the things that I said I would do. But again, I thought that these folks were just trying to paint a bad picture so that they can get something that they always wanted to get. But as time went on, the American Rescue Plan was passed, and in that law, there was language allowing cities to address their aging infrastructure. And so we've set aside $1 million, over $1 million, to match a grant that I think we're going to get, but it's not official yet. But we worked hard to get grants. Nicole Gray is a part of that team, but also Baylor is a part of that team. Jimmy's here today to help to get that. Of course, Matt Anderson is a part of that team, and we think we're going to be successful. Grants are not easy to write. The water infrastructure language in the American Rescue Plan let me know that there's a need for water improvement all throughout this nation. Another convincing moment for me that we really, that these guys weren't just blowing smoke, is that I learned that Governor Edwards had decided to use $600 million of the funds that he would receive to turn into a grant program for water infrastructure. Yet still, the city received an administrative order, and Matt's going to talk about that in just a minute, but that administrative order, I think it was from LDH, Matt? Is it from LDH?
Correct.
Okay. What did that administrative order say?
Administrative order said the water plant as it is now, we cannot take any one part, any one critical component of that water plant offline for maintenance or rehabilitation. That is a violation.
the state sanitary code and health code states that any vital part of your water treatment process you must be able to take that process offline to rehab it and rehabilitate it while still meeting the maximum demand of your water system. So not being able to do that, and we've all heard about the condition of Plant 3, we're not able to take Plant 3 offline to rehab it.
Yep.
So the administrative order states that you must add capacity to your plant.
Yep. And I will say, Matt and his team did a wonderful job, including putting themselves working, even though some of them are administrative. They were working to satisfy the water operator part of the administrative order. And this administrative order, it takes years to get. It's basically a write-up. So it's years in the making. And I will say this, prior to my coming to City Hall, people who were here before me knew that the city needed new water infrastructure. This was no surprise. And honestly, it's not as if there's something just flagrant about that, to be honest with you, because even though the city brings in millions of dollars a year, it still has to make a decision as to what it's going to fund. At some point, the city runs out. The city has a limit. At some point, even Elon Musk has a limit where he can go. He can buy Twitter, but he can't buy Twitter and Facebook, right? Everybody has their limit. And so what happens is you're affected by opportunity cost, so you got to make a decision as to what you're going to do. When I learned more about our system, it really does not take a rocket scientist to figure out that the city needed more water infrastructure. Now, I want you to go to that next slide, Steve. I'm not even going to go there. Let's skip that one. All right. Now, these are some town halls that we had. You see, I want to show you evidence that we did have some town halls, that we took this problem, we took this issue to the residents. And this was actually in Weaver Elementary. Now, it looks like a lot of people, but you see some fire guys who do great work for the city. You see some law enforcement. I think you see Chief Wynn, you see Randy. Everybody know what Randy's head look like. You see Randy, all right there on the front row. And in any of these pictures, mostly they're filled with city employees who I did ask to be at these meetings in case there were some questions, but we only have a few residents who came. Because I think there was some insinuation, somebody said that this was a secret, that the engineers secretly said we got to do this, and this is something we try to be real public and transparent. Hit it again, there's just a couple other pictures, just a couple of things. You see both chiefs up there explaining some of the things going on in their departments. So that's what I mean. We've been talking about how we're going to get paid for our public safety. We've been dealing with this for months and months and months. All right, yeah, go to that slide. Click on that picture, click on the picture, Steve. It's going to be a quick video. I've got a couple others, but I won't show you all because the hour is getting a little bit late. Okay, all right. It's a relatively short video, and we don't have to play. Steve, I'll let you know when to stop, okay? We don't have to necessarily play all of it.
This weird toolbox replacing gadget is quickly becoming the most popular Christmas gift of 2022.
In Jackson, Mississippi, school drop-off isn't just for the kids. It's also for the water. The entire city is facing a boil water notice, again.
We're told, don't wash your hair with the water, don't brush your teeth with the water.
Lakeisha Galeelan worries about her 8-year-old.
Is she going to walk over to a water fountain and drink from that water fountain?
To be safe, signs are up at the middle school. They've been there a long time.
You can't remember a time when the kids could use the water fountains in the school?
I can't remember. I honestly can't remember.
George Stewart has taught here for 6 years, a predominantly black, low-income school. On top of all the other challenges, water quality and water pressure are a constant battle.
At one point, we had to shut down for about 2 weeks.
When?
This was maybe a year or two ago.
In the middle of the pandemic?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Class went virtual. Kids fell further behind.
We have many students who consider some of our most vulnerable students who virtual learning does not help them at all.
The problem here, like so many other places, is failing infrastructure.
This is one of 2 water treatment facilities in Jackson, and the one largely to blame for the most recent citywide boil water notice. And officials still can't tell people when the water will be safe to drink again.
In 2020, an EPA report cited a long list of problems with the water system, including failure to replace lead pipes, faulty monitoring equipment, inadequate staffing.
There's been a failure to recognize this as a unified problem, as a problem both on the state and even at times the federal level, understanding that we lived in an aging America.
Shokwe Antar Lumumba is Jackson's mayor.
If I could write you a check right now to fix the problem, how big would that check have to be?
For the water system alone, it would have to be in excess of more than $200 million.
Pastor C.J. Rhodes, father of twins, has watched many in Jackson lose faith in their leaders.
I don't think our congregation is the only one that feels that way. You talk to people all across the city.
I think everybody has seen Jackson, Mississippi. It's the capital city of Mississippi, majority black city, as you see, and I think the lady mentioned earlier. But that's neither here or there. The fact is that if Jackson, Mississippi, the capital of a whole state, water treatment facility can collapse and fail, and those individuals kids couldn't go to school for weeks at a time. Businesses had to alter totally the way they were doing things. They had to buy canned drinks and things like that. You couldn't use the water to brush your teeth. And there's a part in the video where they say Asian water infrastructure. So if I wasn't a believer that our infrastructure needed to be addressed, then with the engineers telling me, and then the people in the utility department, with the American Rescue Plan, and then with what Governor John Bell Evers did, then with the administrative order that we received, and then with Jackson, Mississippi, is just like the icing on the cake, okay? I want to allow Matt, because I have some more things, but I'm not going to get through it all. I know some people want to get home, go to sleep and everything. Matt, there's probably some things you want to say at this particular time. I know you've been in the utility department for some years now. You're the head of the utility department. I certainly don't sense this is just a project you guys are just saying, hey, this is what we want just because we want it. But kind of just explain some things to us.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'll point out what you said. This didn't just happen once we got the administrative order. We were seeking out help and studies to try to help us solve this problem long before the administrative order came about. Remember, last year we did the study on the water plant and looked at a new water plant versus a rehab of existing. The new water plant was just so expensive, it was kind of out of reach. So now we have settled on rehabbing our current plant, much more doable on an economic standpoint. Guys, if we don't do something, the administrative order states that it gave us deadlines. There was actually 5 or 6 items in that administrative order. We have satisfied 5 of the 6. The 6th one being the biggest one, to add that capacity to your plant so you can rehab the other parts of your plant. The administrative order also states if this is not done by July of 23, that they can fine us up to $3,000 every day. So that $3,000 fine per day for not satisfying the administrative order, that can hit you hard. Now, the deadline is July of 23. That deadline can and will be extended if we do show the Louisiana Department of Health that we are actively working on this project. And actively working on it means you've got an engineer hired, you're building your plans and specifications, you're working on your funding for this project, and then you start the construction of the project. So July of 23 is going to be here in the blink of an eye. So we have got to get this project moving, and the way we're going to have to do that is by first figuring out how we're going to pay for it, right? So when you look at a project like this, you say, okay, what are the funds that I need to pay for this project? Because now I know what I need to do. I need to add capacity. I need to rehab other parts of the plant. So when you look at something like that, you look at 2 things. How much money do I need to do this project? Another thing you want to look at is how am I going to pay for this project? And when you look at that, you also want to look at, and I'm sure Jimmy's going to talk about this also, that you want to look at where your rates stand as far as everyone else around you. Similar size water departments or water districts, municipalities. If we're already charging way more than those other municipalities are charging and we can't do what we need to do, then we need to look at how we're spending our money. But what we found with these rate studies that we had done, that we were far below the average of all the other water systems around us. So that's telling me that the reason we are, one, in the shape we're in, while we've been kicking this can down the road for several years, is because we don't have the money to pay for it, and that's because our rates are too low. So that's when we decided to look at these rate studies and say, okay, what do we need? What are the rates we need to fix our water plant? And that's part of this ordinance, those rates.
Okay. Thank you, Matt. We have Jimmy Hagan, Baylor consultant, is it, or engineer? All right. Yeah, come on, Jimmy. Now, so Jimmy didn't do the water rate study, but I think he analyzed some of the documents, and I think Jimmy's consultation has been helpful throughout this process. Go ahead, Jimmy.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Jimmy Hagan. I'm with Baylor Engineers. We're out of Shreveport, and we're lucky enough to be working with the city on its water treatment plant project. And to reiterate some things that have been said here, I woke up and I was constructed in 1964, or 9 months before 1964, and I know how I feel. So the city's water plant dates to 1953, so it's in probably worse shape than I am. And that's not saying good or bad, but the city has aging infrastructure. Its water plant is one of its oldest facilities. Natchitoches, in the grand scheme of things, it's a city. It's a 15 to 20,000 people. It serves a lot of the parish. Cities that support and serve larger populations rely, at least in Louisiana, they rely on surface water. Surface water treatment plants cost much more to build, operate, maintain, and replace than water wells do that are typically used in smaller water systems. The cost of treating water is more. So all that being said is that because Natchitoches is the size city that it is, and they use surface water, it costs a lot of money to maintain, operate, and replace things that are worn out. And that's where the city is right now. It's got older facilities. It's a testament to the efforts that are made by the people here in Natchitoches that it can produce safe, dependable, high-quality water for the price that it does. And the mayor alluded to the little chart back in the back. The left side of that chart is the people whose water rates are low, and the ones on the other side are the ones that are high. Natchitoches, fortunately, is over on the left side of that chart. They have relatively low water rates. Relative to everybody else, they're very low. It's my understanding they hadn't been raised in 15 or 20 years. And we all wish that things cost what they did 15 or 20 years ago, but every time we all go to the store, we know that that's not the case. It costs more and more for the city to operate the system, and it costs a great deal of money, like Matt and the mayor have referenced, $15 to $20 million to take care of repairing the old, worn-out water plant so that the city's positioned to deliver its customers and its industries and its commercial businesses that you've mentioned, reliable, safe, dependable water. And they want to do that. But I believe, as Matt says, there's always somebody behind you urging you that you do that. And that's either the state or the federal government or both of them. And they have said that Natchitoches, we understand all that, but you have to do A, B, and C. And one of those things that Natchitoches has to do is reinvest in its water infrastructure, primarily its water treatment plant. So that's where the city is, where it finds itself. It's always great. You hear kick the can down the road. Cities are notoriously bad on reinvesting in things like water plants. Out of sight, out of mind. I'm sure many people in this room have driven by that water plant and never knew it was a water plant. I certainly have. I'm not from here, but I've driven by many times and never knew it was sitting back where it was. So the city's water rates are low. They run an operation that produces surface water that is more costly than what smaller people get to do. Shreveport, Bossier, DeSoto Parish, most of the large communities in our part of the state, northwest Louisiana, use surface water that are larger systems like Natchitoches. The water rates are low relative to everybody else. That's just not a reason to say, let's go raise water rates because they're low. Nobody I think, saying that at all. But the city does have to reinvest. The city and its staff, as the mayor and Matt, and it's been alluded, Nicole, timing is everything. The good part of it is that because the city has gotten to this point, whether it kicked the can down the road or whatever decisions were made previously, there are more funds and sources of funds available from our federal government now than there has been in quite a long time. So the true cost to the ratepayer in Natchitoches, the city staff and our office are working every angle we can to get the city as much money so that it has to borrow the least amount of money to take care of its problem. So if you think about any other thing you might go buy, if you go buy a car and you've got half the money, well, your note's going to be a little less. And so that's what the city's doing is we've been able to go to at least 2 or 3 sources. The mayor mentioned ARPA funds. The city's committed some of the ARPA funds it's got. It's gone to the water sector program that the mayor alluded to and Matt alluded to, seeking $5 million. And there's other LDH funds that are up to about half of what you would have to borrow, so 50% loan forgiveness subsidy. So when we start trying to push together monies that are, if you want to say other people's monies, we're working tirelessly to do that so that we lower the cost of the project, and in lowering the cost of the project, we impact the ratepayers, the folks in Natchitoches that pay a water bill or a sewer bill every month, so that we can keep those water rates as low as we can and still meet all of the requirements that the city has on it by using all the funds that we can. So hopefully that's reiterating a lot of what y'all have shared. But if anybody has any questions.
Anybody for Jimmy? Thanks a lot, Jimmy. Jimmy drove down with us from Shreveport. All right. Matt, I think you said what you had to say. Council, I don't know if there's anything you need to say at this time.
We've had a lot of meetings on this. I think this has been handled very well. And one question I want to ask is does this include a consumer price index adjustment, like a yearly adjustment? Does anyone know?
Eddie, I know we've talked about that, and that is something that we feel we'd like to see in there. But
I think it needs to.
Yeah, and Jimmy can allude to this. A lot of water systems, sewer systems, and even electrical systems are using a consumer price index to regulate their water rates. That way, you're at least you're keeping up with inflation. If you set a water rate and then don't touch it for 5-6 years, then or even longer, and then when you do make a change, it has to be a big change because you're behind.
Exactly.
If you can do if you can look at that consumer price index every year and make small changes to your water rates that most people probably won't even notice, make those small changes every year, then after 5 or 6 or 10 years, you're not stuck with it. Man, we got to really raise the rates.
I'd rather, if it's one way or the other, I'd rather someone's rates go up 50 cents than in a few years their rates go up $10.
Correct. Yeah.
And if that consumer price index isn't in there, we need I think it needs to be put in there.
Well, Jimmy, I don't know if you were able to get a hold of Murchison. Did you talk to Murchison? Okay. Jimmy sent over some language, but I think it's a matter of Jimmy and Tommy getting together and making sure what needs to be in there.
Because if that was in there years ago, we wouldn't be here right now. You know.
Correct. Usually when you do that, you don't get behind. You're keeping up with inflation, and then even if you had a large scale project like this, the rate you would have to you'd bump your rates, you'd raise them to meet that need, but it wouldn't be as drastic.
And all I want to say is, as you saw, me and the mayor may be at odds, like we were a while ago about something, and that's democracy, is what that is. But unlike our federal government, I can disagree with him on one thing and then praise him on something else. And this is time to praise him, to be honest with you. This is a very hard decision that none of us want to make. This is something that really shouldn't be before us. It should have been taken care of decades ago, to be honest. But it's here, and now we have to play catch up, as you've heard. We have to raise rates just to even break even in cost, so we can keep functioning. We know this isn't a popular opinion. The mayor knows he may lose votes because of this, and we may too. This is more than us. This is more than votes. This is Natchitoches. This is moving Natchitoches forward. This is so you can continue to have water. This is so you continue to have sewer. This is so police and fire can get better pay. So we stop losing them. And that's leadership. Well, I'm done, yeah.
Yeah, Ms. Taylor.
Randy Stelly. I know you don't want to blame the previous administration about things and decisions that was made, but what is more important? Is that park out there more important than the water system? Because that was done with, with monies and stuff and what have you, that could have went into the infrastructure. But the real reason why I'm up here is to ask this question is that with the rehabilitation process, will that increase the capacity to produce more water for the city? Because if it only keeps what you got now, how are you going to have economic development if you can't bring big industry in here and have the water capacity to serve them? So I'm asking, is the rehabilitation worth it and you can't increase the capacity, or would it be better to have a new plant and increase capacity so that you can increase economic development?
Yes, I think that's you, Matt.
Yes, sir. When this project is complete, and I'm talking about the addition of Plant 4, the extra capacity, and the rehabilitation of the existing plants, right now our capacity is about 8 million gallons a day. At the end of this project, we will be able to produce 10.5 million gallons a day. So yes, we'll see an increase, a daily increase of 2.5 million gallons a day, which that's your cushion, so you don't have to run the plant wide open. That's extra capacity for new industry, and that's also capacity to take a plant down even for a few days to clean it properly. We struggle to do that now. We do that, but it's like we have to do it quickly because we have to get that plant back online. So yes, to answer your question, yes, we will see about a 2.5 million gallon a day increase in capacity.
Matt, and I know you have a quote you worked on. I'm moving on. Council, y'all good this time? All right.
Mayor, before you move on, just for housekeeping purposes,
amendment?
Yeah, we need to vote to amend the.
Before you say that, can I say this?
Okay.
One of our meetings, because again, we've had many meetings, and this is not something, again, like I said, on the advice of engineers, we haven't rushed to do. Because again, to reiterate what Councilman Harrington said, nobody wants this to be the way. And I think that's very clear. But there are alternatives to not addressing our infrastructure, to not doing things that we have to do in terms of our public safety personnel, but also, I would even say other personnel at some point. But one of these engineers that we've met with, and we've had several, but I think he said something very interesting. He said that he presented a graph to us And he said each resident, and I want to get this right, Matt, I think he was saying is 18,000 owner of the city of Natchitoches.
That's correct.
What he was saying is that every Natchitoches resident has ownership in the city of Natchitoches. That means that some things we cannot expect the state government to deliver us from. We can't expect the feds to deliver us from. And just what Councilman Harrington said, that this is our city, that some of it is going to be on us. Now, we've looked for every dime, like Jimmy said, of money we can get, and we can always do that. I think right now we got over 20-some million in different things. When you think about the HVAC projects going on, you think about the 17 million that's coming for bike and ped and sidewalks on Texas and things like that. When you think of 400,000 for Richardson Park, you think of the lift station grant that we got, and we think we're going to get the $5 million water treatment grant. But if we don't have the rest of the money, it's not a $5 million project. It's like I said, a $17 million project. If we don't have the rest of the money, we're going to have to give it back, and somebody else moves up and get that money. Housekeeping.
All right.
I'm sorry, before you do your housekeeping. Clarissa, was there anything? Because you've been on those conversations as well.
No, I just want to say that, we did do our due diligence of going back and looking at varying models of how we can implement this increase. I know we'll probably present that at the next meeting, but just want to know that this was not something that we wanted to, we were very careful on how it impacted our citizens, looking at the different economic classes and looking at a way that we can do this to where it is not a massive, financial impact on any individual. So just wanted to kind of add to the part of that we took our time on developing this, and I think we've developed a great model of how we can implement this increase without it being detrimental to any household.
Yeah, I think you did a good job on that.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, and the fact that we did have 3 different engineers, so we didn't just take one person's opinion. We definitely took the opinion of multiple engineers just to know that we had enough information to make the right decision for our city.
Mayor, if I can speak to the impact, and we talked about this, that if you have, just say like a single mom with maybe just 2 kids, they may not feel it as much as you would have somebody that's watering their yard and things of that sort. So I think if you can kind of speak to that so we can.
Jimmy Hagan was really influential in helping that tier system. Jimmy, you a minute to, I'm holding you to a hard minute, Jimmy, because it's 7:22.
I think what's been mentioned is a tier system. The easiest way to raise a water rate, or the simplest way, if you don't really give it a lot of thought, is we're just going to take whatever it takes to pay for it, and we're going to increase everybody's water rate the same amount. That obviously impacts, I say, retired people, which I'll be not too far down the road. People that are on fixed incomes, $2 or $3 a month means a lot more to them than somebody that has 4 acres and they water their yard all the time. That's I think everybody understands that. So what we've looked at is try to develop a system that lessens the impact on those who are less able to pay a water bill, and shift that cost over to people that are probably more able to pay that water bill. Because everybody has the discretion on how much water they want to use. They can take 4 showers a day and they can water 4 acres, or they can take 1 shower a week and have no yard. So water consumption is something that everybody has, they can decide what they're going to do with it. So the idea is to have a tiered system where you just don't put a rate on everybody, but you kind of smooth that rate out as it goes up into higher water users. And so that's the tiered rates that we're talking about. We've given about 8 or 10 different scenarios, and just basically said this is what's good about this one and this is what's good about this one, and kind of let the city pick something that wiggled into something that they were comfortable with, that they thought the ratepayer would be comfortable with. So, I believe, are we talking $4 a month or something like that?
What's the,
Yeah, and over some steps.
Yeah,
said
and that's just the,
Yeah.
that's just the amount, the total amount.
Stagnated.
It's smoothed over, what your base rate is and what you pay per 1,000 gallons.
So right now, we have a base rate that every customer pays up to 2,000 gallons, and then we have a per 1,000 gallon rate. And this is reflective of water and sewer. We are going to take this in 2 steps, and again, that just speaks to how careful we were on how we wanted this impact to affect our citizens. So we're going to take this in 2 steps. You will see a base rate over the next 2 years of $2 for your sewer and $2 for your water. And that's the base rate. Everybody will see that. And then you'll see a $2 increase in the rate per 1,000 gallons over 2,000 gallons, which is your base amount. So we kind of looked at, the households and how many households fall in the various categories. So about 40% of our customers fall in that base rate amount, so they don't use more than 2,000 gallons a month. So you literally will only see a $4 increase in your monthly bill for water and sewer collectively.
I think it's been a little bit of a moving target in a good way, because what was originally discussed a couple of years ago in this project that was needed and the funds that were available, the city was looking at borrowing up almost all of that money.
Yes.
Like we stated earlier, it's located grant funds, and so that number keeps going. Fortunately, it's going down.
Yeah.
So we run a scenario and we run another one. Well, the number is going down. So the impact on the ratepayer is less than what it would have been had this discussion been had last year or 2 years ago. So that's the good thing.
Very good point. And I definitely want to make sure that we explain everything that's listed actually in the ordinance. So this is an ordinance to change the rates for water, sewer, and electric. So there will be a change in the electric rates. I know that we hadn't spoke a lot about that, in our discussion, but we are looking at a change in the electric rates as well. On the base amount, and what you have to understand about electric rates, and Matt definitely help me out if I say anything incorrect, but we do have the rate that the city charges, and then you also have what they consider the PCA rate, which is a fuel cost that fluctuates, over time. But there is going to be a rate change, or we are proposing a rate change for both water, sewer, and electric.
Okay. All right, Matt, man, I gotta go home. I'm calling him Matt.
Mayor.
What we got? Ms. Carolyn?
Yeah, she's silent.
I gotta treat you like I treat everybody else, Ms. Carolyn. Yes, I want you up.
When will the increase start? I'm Carolyn Roy.
Yeah, so our first initial increase, which we're gonna do this in 2 steps, so the initial increase will be May of '23, and then the second increase will be May of '24. Thank you. You're so welcome.
Okay. Again, that's just introduction. Moving on, we got a few resolutions, I think. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm asking the council to amend the agenda.
Okay.
Is this amend to add sewer, I think, to
Right,
this?
to add.
Okay.
If I could just read it, so
Yeah.
make sure we're clear.
Right.
An ordinance to amend and reenact sections 30-18, 30-34, and 30-42, all of which are located in Article 4 of Section 30 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Natchitoches entitled Utilities. Said amendments being made to implement changes in rates for electrical services, rates for sewer services, rates for water use, which new rate structure has been proposed in an electrical rate study prepared by Rick Nolan and a water and sewer rate study prepared by Schuler/Baylor, providing for advertisement, further providing for severability, and further providing for any repealers.
Well, I make a motion that the ordinance be amended to reflect what was read.
Second.
All right, motion made and seconded. Council comments, questions about that? Any public comments or questions about that? Seeing none, Mrs. Stacy, roll call vote.
Eli?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Harrington?
Yes.
Pettit?
Yes.
All right, that motion carries. Now moving on to resolutions, that's Councilman Pettit.
Thank you, Mayor. Resolution number 107 of 2022. A resolution authorizing the mayor to execute change order number 1 to the contract between the City of Natchitoches and Dixie Overland Construction, LLC, for the wastewater collection system. Whereas the City of Natchitoches awarded the bid to Dixie Overland Construction on November 28, 2022, by ordinance number 74 of 2022, in the amount of $497,485 for the wastewater collection system. Whereas on December the 2nd, 2022, the contractor issued change order number 1, more fully described in attachment A. Whereas on December 2nd, whereas the contract sum will be increased by this change order number 1 in the amount of $21,392, and the revised contract total will be $518,877. Whereas the project engineer, Henry Schuler of Schuler Consulting Company, has recommended this change order. Whereas the city is of the opinion that change order number 1 is in the best interest of the city. So I move that resolution number 107 be adopted.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Matt?
This is a change order for the rehabilitation of 2 of our major lift stations. This project is being partially funded by DEQ. We got a grant from DEQ. Well, it's a DEQ loan with a partial loan forgiveness. So it's some free money. This bid was actually awarded back in May, but because of some changes at DEQ and some changes in some paperwork, it has just taken this long for the bid to actually be awarded, which we did last council meeting. So what the contractor has asked for is a change order to reflect the price increases of the actual material, because they won't order the material until the bid is awarded. So what they put in their bid, the price increases have taken place, and it's only about 4.2% of the total job. So with the inflation we've seen in the last year, we thought that was more than fair. They're asking no increases for labor, no increases in time, solely the increases in the cost of the material that the job will consume.
Okay. Comments or questions for Matt? All right, any public comments or questions? Okie dokie, seeing none, Mrs. Stacy, roll call vote. Thanks, Matt.
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Harrington?
Yes.
PT?
Yes.
All right, that motion carries. Next item is resolution number 108 of 2022. It's Councilwoman Washington Eli.
Thank you, Mayor. Let me get to it. Resolution number 108 of 2022, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with the Cunningham Agency, NIC, for the airport liability insurance for the city of Natchitoches. Whereas the insurance committee has reviewed the proposal submitted by the airport liability insurance for the city of Natchitoches and recommended that the contract be awarded by Cunningham Agency of Louisiana with the annual premium of $11,190 per year for 3 years for the period of January the 10th of 2023 through January the 10th of 2026. Now therefore be resolved that the Honorable Ronnie Williams, Jr., Mayor, hereby authorize, empower, and dedicate and sign all of the documents necessary for this execution of this contract. And I move to adopt resolution number 108 of 2022.
Second.
All right, motion made and seconded. It seems like the committee made the decision for us based on it's the best price for us. Okay. Any comments or questions about that, council? Any public comments? Okay, seeing none, Mrs. Stacy, roll call vote.
Eli?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Harrington?
Yes.
PT?
Yes.
All right, that motion carries also. Next item is resolution number 109 of 2022. That's Councilman Harrington.
Resolution number 109 of 2022 is a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Midwest Employers Casualty Company for the workers' compensation excess coverage policy for the city of Natchitoches. And whereas the insurance committee has reviewed the proposals submitted by Midwest Employers Casualty Company for the handling of the workers' compensation excess coverage policy for the city of Natchitoches, and whereas the annual premium for this contract is $85,151.50 per year for 2 years for the period of January 1st, 2023 through January 1st, 2025. I move to adopt resolution number 109 of 2022.
Second.
Okay, is this similar to the previous one? No? Ed, you want to explain a little bit?
Yes, this is the excess coverage for our self-insured work comp plan. This is in case we have any really big claims. If we have a really big claim, this one will step in and help us. This one is also first time they've ever offered to us a 2-year renewal at the flat rate, so I think we need to take advantage of it. And workers' comp coverage is based on your annual payroll, and with some of the things we're talking about tonight, I mean, I do recommend we go with this since it is based on our payroll and we have a 2-year renewal, we should accept this.
Okay. Questions for Ed, Council? But what about any public comments or questions? Okay, seeing none. Mrs. Stacy, roll call vote.
Eli?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Harrington?
Yes.
PT?
Yes.
All right, that motion carries. Last item on the agenda is Councilman PT.
Thank you, Mayor. Resolution number 110 of 2022, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Employees Risk Management Services as the workers' compensation third-party administrator for the city of Natchitoches. Whereas the insurance committee has reviewed the proposal submitted by the Employees Risk Management as a third-party administrator for the handling of workers' compensation claims for the city of Natchitoches. Whereas the annual premium for this contract is $14,972.76 for the period January 1st, 2023 through January 1st, 2024. And whereas it is the recommendation of the committee that the contract be awarded to Employers Risk Management. And I so move that resolution number 110 be approved.
Second.
All right, motion made and seconded. Yeah, just some brief comments you got on this?
Yeah, this is the third-party administrator for our self-insured workers' comp plan. They help us with verifying rates and actually processing invoices. That's not done by the city's finance department. That's done by our third-party administrator and making sure we get the best rates for all our worker comp bills.
Okay. Questions or comments for Ed, Council? Are there any public comments or questions? All right, Mr. Stacy, roll call vote.
Eli?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Harrington?
Yes.
PT?
Yes.
All right, that motion carries. Next meeting is January 9th of the new year. So there will not be a meeting typically 2 weeks from now on the 26th. City offices will be closed Friday the 23rd and also December the 26th for the Christmas holiday, and then repeating that a week later, Friday, December 30th, and then the 2nd of January. All right, we still got things going on in terms of the weekend. I'm told, I didn't go down to see myself, but I'm told that this weekend may have been larger than festival, or this past weekend. Now, I don't really know if it's, maybe that was an exaggeration, but somebody said it was a lot of people in town. Yeah. Really? On Saturday? Oh, wow. Oh. We'll finish with the agenda items here. Oh, yeah. No, that's what I talked to one of the captains, and he said it was much busier. He felt like bigger than even Christmas Fest weekend. I'm like, I don't know about that, but we still have, what is that, 3 more weekends left? How many? Yeah, we still have a few weekends left. Okay. All righty. So to take part in the fireworks. All right. We're doing our last Mayor's Health and Fitness Council Bike Sunday of the year. Now we're planning to do these every month for the first half of next year. And the route may change. I'm trying to say, hey, we need to change the route. But we start at the Watson Memorial Library, Eugene P. Watson Memorial Library, and we just go down MLK, then Texas, then Front, then get back on University. So it's a 3-mile ride. And there's a T-shirt. I think we still have T-shirts for those who participate. So come out. We advertise on Facebook today. We'll do some more this week. All right? And, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, because this is the last meeting of the year. All right? Alex, I think you got something?
You may have something. Congratulate Northwestern.
The Northwestern State University.
Yeah.
They have made.
Yeah, we gotta be
so
proud
the
of
next
that.
game is not until the 31st, I think.
Right.
The next home game. They have other games. In fact, I'll be traveling with them, not with them, but I'll be going to Rice on Saturday. They play Rice, and they play Texas A&M, then Baylor, something like that.
Yeah.
So they'll be in Texas for the, got a few games in Texas. But they are 8-2, the best record in 70 years for the men. Now, the women are doing well, too. But the best record in 70 years for the men. We've been on ESPN. I'm saying we. I'm claiming ownership as well, right? No, we've actually been on ESPN 4 times. When we beat TCU, when we hit the shot against Southern Miss, we made SVP, Scott Van Pelt, and then that was the top 5 play. And then Hansel, who was an inspiration, I hope, to all of us, he got a rebound after he missed a free throw. It came kind of tipped to him. And he got a dunk. And this morning, he was on Good Morning America.
Yeah, we all know.
We're talking about Stephanopoulos. What is his name? George Stephanopoulos.
Yes, talking about
covered him. CBS this morning. So, man, this has been amazing what this team has done and the publicity they've gotten. There were 1,600 people. You guys need to go. If you haven't been going, come support both teams. It's a ride that we're going on right now. Okay?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
At this time, we've been here over 2 hours, so I hear a motion to adjourn.
I so move we adjourn. Make a motion we adjourn.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.